Teo walked slowly through the Kepler Station Galactic Zoo with his father, Ki-sung. The young boy was only 12 years old, and his eyes grew wide as he looked at the different creatures from across the galaxy. Some were big and scary, some were small and colorful. Each one was different from anything Teo had ever seen before. Ki-sung held his son's hand as they moved through the viewing halls. Teo's father was a scientist who studied strange life forms. He worked at the research outpost, and today he brought Teo to see the zoo. It was supposed to be a fun day together, something special for a boy who had spent most of his life on space stations. They walked past glass walls that showed creatures from 100 different worlds. There were purple birds with too many wings. There were small, rock-like animals that rolled around in special rooms. There were floating things that glowed in the darkness. Teo pointed at each one and asked his father questions. Ki-sung answered each question with patience and love. But as they walked deeper into the zoo, something strange happened. The lights in the building started to flicker. Then they went dark. Alarms began to sound from somewhere far away. Ki-sung pulled Teo close and looked around, confused. He spoke into his communication device, but it made only crackling sounds. Nothing was working. "Stay with me," Ki-sung said to Teo. "I think there is a power problem. We need to find the main exit." The two of them moved through the darkness. The alarms continued to scream. Other visitors began to run past them, going in all different directions. Children cried, adults shouted for help. The happy day at the zoo had suddenly become scary and confusing. In all the chaos, a scientist rushed past them and accidentally knocked Teo away from his father. The boy fell to the ground, and when he stood up again, Ki-sung was gone. Teo could not see him anywhere. He called out for his father, but no one heard him in the noise and confusion. Teo was scared now. He did not know which way to go. The alarms were getting louder. He ran down a hallway, hoping to find safety. He ran without thinking about where he was going. The hallway became darker and darker. The regular viewing area was gone now, and he was somewhere he did not know. He came to a large door marked with red letters that said, "Restricted Zone." The door was hanging open because of the power problem. Teo hesitated for only a moment, but he was too scared to go anywhere else. He walked through the door. Beyond the door was a huge chamber. It was much bigger than the normal viewing areas. The room had thick glass walls and special lights. In the middle of the room sat something that was not like any creature Teo had ever seen before. It looked like it was made of crystal, but it was alive. Its body was not solid. It moved and shifted like water, but it was also hard like glass. Colors of blue and green moved through its form like light through a prism. It did not have a face, but somehow Teo felt like it could see him. Teo stood very still. He had heard stories about dangerous creatures that lived in this part of the zoo. He had heard people talking about the unkillable thing that could not die, no matter what anyone did to it. The creature in the chamber was huge, maybe 3 times as big as Teo's bedroom, but the creature did not move toward him. It just stayed in the center of the room, completely still. Its colors had faded to a dull gray. It looked asleep, or maybe dead. Teo slowly walked closer to the glass wall and looked at it. He had never seen anything so strange and beautiful at the same time. The creature was scary, yes, but also interesting. Teo forgot about being lost. He forgot about the alarms. He just watched the strange being in front of him. Then something happened inside Teo's mind. He was not afraid anymore. He did not see a dangerous monster. He saw something lonely and sad. Maybe it was just a child's feeling, but Teo felt like the creature was very alone. Very slowly, he reached out his small hand and touched the glass wall. The creature's colors changed. Blue started to move through its body, then green, then yellow. It was like the creature was waking up from a long sleep. Its form started to move and shift. It came closer to the glass wall where Teo's hand was touching. The boy did not pull his hand away. Instead, he smiled at the creature. Suddenly, emergency lights came on. The power was coming back. The alarms became even louder. A mechanical voice began to say something about danger and evacuation. Red lights were flashing everywhere now. The creature suddenly moved. But it did not attack Teo. Instead, it moved toward the door. The same door that Teo had come through. The glass wall of its chamber began to break. Cracks spread across it like a spider web. The creature was not trying to break it. It was the pressure from whatever was happening that caused the damage. Alarms were screaming from all directions now. Teo heard people running and shouting. He had to move. He ran out of the chamber and back into the hallway. Behind him, he could hear the sound of breaking glass and something very large moving. Teo did not look back. He ran through the darkness, following the sound of other people. The creature followed him. It did not chase him like a hunter chasing food. It just followed, staying behind him, moving where he moved. People screamed when they saw the creature coming. They ran away. Guards tried to block the hallway, but they could not stop it. The creature moved around them without attacking. It was only following the small boy. Teo ran toward a part of the station that looked old and empty. He found a maintenance duct that was open. Without thinking, he climbed inside. The creature moved closer, and for a moment, Teo thought it would attack him. But instead, the creature changed its shape. It became smaller and thinner. It folded itself into the duct right beside Teo. The boy crawled deeper into the darkness. The creature followed. They moved through the old tunnels of the station until the sounds of the alarms became very quiet. They found an old transport pod that had not been used for many years. They both fit inside. In the darkness and silence, Teo and the creature sat together. The boy was breathing hard from running. The creature's colors were bright yellow now, matching the yellow of fear. Outside, they heard people searching and shouting. Metal doors were closing, systems were being locked down. But inside the old transport pod, Teo and the creature were hidden and safe. They were together in the darkness, and neither of them was alone anymore. Teo did not know what would happen next. He did not know what the creature was or why it had followed him. But he knew one thing for certain. Something had changed in that moment when he touched the glass and smiled. The young boy put his hand on the creature's crystal-like body. It was warm. It was alive. And in the silence, they waited for what would come next. 3 days passed in complete darkness and silence. The transport pod had no windows, no lights, and no communication systems. Teo did not know where they were going. He did not know if they were moving at all. He only knew that he and the creature were still alive in this small metal box. On the first day, Teo was very scared. He sat in the corner of the pod and tried not to cry. The creature stayed on the other side of the small space. Its colors kept changing from bright red to dark purple. Sometimes it made soft sounds like wind moving through a tunnel. Teo tried to sleep, but he could not. He was too afraid and too hungry. On the second day, Teo's fear started to go away. He realized that the creature was not going to hurt him. It had many chances to attack him in these small quarters, but it had never tried. Instead, it seemed to be waiting for something. Its colors slowly became calmer. They changed from angry reds to softer blues and greens. Teo began to talk to the creature. He told it about his life. He told it about living on space stations and how lonely it could be. He told it about his mother, who worked very far away and could not come home often. He told it about his favorite food and his favorite books. The creature listened. Teo was sure of this, even though it did not have ears. On the third day, something very strange happened. The pod began to shake. Teo felt pressure pushing him down like when a ship was landing, but the pod had no power. Teo had checked the control panels many times. They were all dark and broken. There was no way the pod should be moving or landing. But it was landing. Teo could feel it clearly. The pod touched the ground softly like a hand setting down a glass of water, and then it was still again. Teo and the creature waited for a long time. Nothing happened. The boy was very thirsty now. He was very hungry. He pushed open the door of the pod and looked outside. They were on a planet. The ground was gray and rocky. The sky was a strange color between orange and purple. In the distance, Teo could see hills and rocks and dust. But he could also see something else. He could see the old research station where he and his father had stayed 2 years ago before they moved to the main colony. The station looked empty now. The windows were dark. No lights came from inside. But Teo remembered the way. He knew there would be food stores in there and water and maybe a communication device that still worked. "Come on," Teo said to the creature. "We need to find water and food." The creature followed him out of the pod. In the light of this alien sun, Teo could see it better than ever before. It was even more beautiful and strange than he had thought. Its body was not solid, but it was not liquid either. It was something between the two, constantly shifting and changing. Colors moved through it like thoughts moving through a mind. They walked toward the research station. Teo had to move slowly because his legs were weak from sitting for 3 days. The creature moved beside him, matching his speed. It did not try to run away. It stayed with the boy like a shadow, like a friend. They reached the station just as the sun was going down. The door was locked, but Teo remembered that his father had shown him a secret panel on the side. He found it and opened it. The emergency power was still working. Lights came on inside the station, just a few, but enough to see. Teo found water in the storage area. He drank so much his stomach hurt. He found food, old bars of nutrient paste and sealed containers of dried fruit. He ate quickly more than he should have. Then he found a clean cloth and wet it with water. He cleaned his face and his hands. The creature did not seem to need water or food. Instead, it moved to one of the old power cells that lined the walls of the storage area. It touched the power cell with one part of its body, and the cell seemed to glow a little brighter. The creature's colors became more vivid, brighter, and more alive. Teo watched this with wonder. The creature was eating energy, not food. It was absorbing power like a plant absorbs sunlight. "You're amazing," Teo said to the creature. Over the next week, Teo learned more about his strange new friend. He learned that the creature was very intelligent. He learned that it could understand his words even if it could not speak them. He learned that it liked to learn things. He would show it pictures from old data files, and the creature would study them for hours, its color shifting as it processed the information. But Teo also learned that the creature was lonely in a way that made him sad. Sometimes the creature would make those wind-like sounds for a long time. Its colors would become dark and slow. When this happened, Teo would sit next to it and put his hand on its smooth surface. The creature would make a bright blue flash, like relief or happiness, and the boy would feel better too. One day, Teo heard a broadcast coming through on an old receiver in the station. His father's voice filled the room. Ki-sung was speaking into a communication system, asking for anyone to help find his son. He was begging people to tell him if they had seen Teo. He said his son was the most important thing in his life, and he would not stop looking until he found him. Teo listened to his father's voice and began to cry. He cried because he missed his father so much. He cried because his father was sad. He cried because he did not know if he would ever see his father again. The creature came close to Teo. Its body began to glow with different colors, blues and greens that were slow and gentle. It made soft sounds that almost seemed like words. Teo did not know what the creature was trying to do, but he felt like it was trying to comfort him. He felt like the creature understood his sadness. Teo put his arms around the creature and held it. Its surface was cool and smooth against his skin. They stayed like that for a long time, a boy and an alien creature, both alone, but together now. "I'm going to give you a name," Teo said finally. "I'm going to call you Hoon. That was my grandfather's name. He was very kind and very strong, just like you." Teo said the name over and over. "Hoon, Hoon, Hoon." The creature listened. Its colors became bright and vibrant. It made a sound that matched the word. After many repetitions, the creature began to make that sound on its own. The pitch was strange and musical, not like a human voice at all, but it was clear. The creature was saying its name. The creature had a name now. It was Hoon. That night, Teo and Hoon slept in the same room. The boy curled up on a soft seat in the common area. Hoon positioned itself nearby, its colors slowly dimming to a soft, peaceful blue. For the first time since the escape, Teo felt safe enough to really sleep. He dreamed of his father. He dreamed of home. And somewhere in those dreams, he also dreamed of Hoon, and how this strange creature had become his best friend in all the galaxy. In the Collector Command Center, hundreds of light years away from the lonely research station, chaos was breaking loose. Every screen showed the same terrible news. The creature called Kithrex was gone. The transport pod that held it had disappeared from the zoo. The most dangerous being in the known galaxy was now free, and no one knew where it was. Vex Commander Raiden stood at the center of the command room, looking at all the screens with a face like stone. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and cold eyes that had seen 1,000 battles. He had been hunting dangerous creatures for 20 years, and he had never failed an assignment, but now his reputation was on the line. "I want that creature found," Raiden said to his team. "I want it alive, if possible. Dead, if necessary, but I want it. Do you understand me?" "Yes, sir," the team answered together. Raiden was not worried about the creature itself. His weapons were the best in the galaxy. His soldiers were trained for impossible missions. What worried him was the political problem. The Collectors had promised the Galactic Council that Kithrex could be contained. They had said it was no danger if kept locked away. Now the Council would question their ability. They would question the Collector's power. That was something that Raiden could not allow. Back on the planet Kepler 452b, in the main colonial city, something different was happening. Dr. Haiwan was sitting in her laboratory looking at data files about Kithrex. She was one of the few scientists who had actually studied the creature in detail. She knew more about it than anyone else alive. As she reviewed her notes and the creature's genetic information, something began to trouble her. The data told a story that was different from what everyone believed. The creature was not naturally violent. Its genetic code showed that its species had been builders and protectors. Its design was meant to be gentle and adaptable. But the creature that had been held in the zoo was violent and dangerous. It had killed 17 creatures in its chamber. It had attacked every person who went near it. This was not its natural state. This was the result of trauma and fear. Haiwan made a realization that shocked her. The creature was not unkillable because it was a weapon. It was unkillable because it survived through fear. Every attack made it stronger. Every weapon made it adapt faster. It was a survival creature that had been tortured into becoming a monster. She rushed to Administrator Jihu's office with her findings. Jihu was the leader of the colony, a woman with a round face and kind eyes who cared about the people under her protection. She listened to Haiwan's explanation carefully. "If what you are saying is true," Jihu said, "then we are not dealing with a monster. We are dealing with a victim." "Yes," Haiwan said. "And if the Collectors find it, they will try to kill it, but killing is the one thing that will make it truly dangerous." At that exact moment, Ki-sung heard the news that a ship had landed at the colony. He was in the research center when an alert came through. His heart began to beat faster. He had spent the last week searching for his son with no success. He had searched the wilderness, the old structures, everywhere he could think of. Nothing. And now this ship was arriving, and they said it was the collectors. Ki-sung ran to find Administrator Ji-hoo. He met her in the main office building, where she was already receiving Vex Commander Raiden and his team. Raiden was dressed in black armor that seemed to absorb light. His soldiers stood behind him like a wall of death. "We are here to retrieve a dangerous creature," Raiden said in a cold voice. "A transport pod from the Kepler Station Zoo left this planet 5 days ago. The creature inside is now missing. We have reason to believe it landed here. You will give us full access to all your resources to find it." "We cannot do that," Ji-hoo said firmly. "This is our colony. We make our own decisions here. What do you want this creature for?" "That is not your concern," Raiden said. "It is dangerous. That is all you need to know. You will help us find it, or we will flatten your colony searching for it ourselves." Ki-sung stepped forward. "Wait. If my son is alive, he might be with this creature. Give me 3 days to search before you do anything. Please." Raiden looked at Ki-sung with no emotion. "You have 2 days. After that, we are taking control of this entire region. Anyone hiding the creature will be considered an enemy of the collectors." Ki-sung had no time to waste. He gathered a small research team and immediately began searching all the old structures on the planet. They used every scanner and detection device available to them. They searched through the night. They searched through the next day. And early in the morning of the second day, they found something. The old research station had signs of recent use. There was a transport pod nearby that matched the description from the zoo. And inside the station, they found evidence that their search had been successful. There were drawings on the walls. There were markers showing where someone had been eating and drinking. There were personal items scattered around, items that belonged to a child. But where was the child? Where was the creature? Ki-sung searched more carefully. He found a room where something large had been resting. There were marks on the floor and walls that showed movement and change, as if something was constantly shifting its form. And there were watermarks and electrical residue that told a story of companionship and care. Then, in the main room of the station, Ki-sung heard a sound. Very quiet, very soft. He moved toward it, his heart pounding. There, in a makeshift bed of old cushions and blankets, were 2 beings sleeping together. One was a small boy with dark hair. The other was a creature made of crystal and light, its color softened to peaceful blues as it slept. Ki-sung stopped. He could not move. He could not breathe. His son was alive. His son was asleep next to the most dangerous creature in the galaxy, and they were not hurting each other. They were not fighting. They were at peace together. Ki-sung's team arrived behind him. "Do not move," he whispered to them. "Do not make any noise. Just document everything." He took a moment to simply look at his son's face. Then, very slowly and carefully, he stepped forward and knelt down beside his boy. Teo's eyes opened. For a moment, the boy looked confused. Then recognition filled his face. "Father," Teo said softly. "Yes, my son," Ki-sung said, and tears began to fall from his eyes. "I found you. I found you alive." But before they could embrace, Hoon woke up. The creature's colors shifted from peaceful blue to sharp yellow. Its body began to tense. It had not seen Ki-sung before. It saw him as a threat to Teo. And when Hoon was ready to move, the research station's emergency alarm suddenly started to scream. Vex Commander Raiden and his soldiers were outside, surrounding the building. They had found the creature. The hunt was no longer something happening in the distance. The hunt was here, and it was about to become very real. The alarm screamed through the research station like a living thing. Red lights flashed in every room. Outside, through the windows, Ki-sung could see military vehicles surrounding the building. Soldiers in armor were taking positions, weapons ready. This was a capture operation, and they had no intention of letting anything escape. Teo stood up quickly, looking scared. But he did not run. Instead, he moved closer to Hoon and put his hand on the creature's crystalline form. "It's okay," he said to the creature. "It's okay, Hoon. This is my father. He will not hurt you." Hoon's colors were wild now, moving through every shade of yellow and red. The creature was scared. It was preparing to fight, just like it had been trained to do in the zoo. Every instinct in its body was telling it to defend itself against the threat. Ki-sung looked at his son, and then at the creature. For the first time, he could see what Dr. Hae-won had discovered in her research. This was not a monster. This was a frightened being that had learned only violence because violence was all it had ever known. "Raiden," Ki-sung's voice came through the communication system. It was strong and firm. "This is Ki-sung, colonial researcher. I am inside this station with the creature. I am ordering you to stand down." "You have no authority to order me," Raiden's cold voice came back through the speakers. "Evacuate the building. You have 5 minutes before we move in." Ki-sung looked at Teo. "I need you to tell me something very important. Tell me the truth. Has this creature hurt you at any time? Has it tried to attack you?" "No," Teo said firmly. "Hoon has never hurt me. Hoon has protected me. Hoon is good. Father, please. You have to believe me." Ki-sung turned to his research team. "I want all of you to leave the building now. Take all the documentation you have gathered. Send it to Dr. Hae-won immediately. Tell her that the creature is intelligent and non-hostile when treated with compassion." "Sir, we cannot leave you here," one of the team members said. "That is an order," Ki-sung said. "Go! Now." The research team left quickly, carrying their equipment and data. Ki-sung moved to the main communication system and began to record a message. He looked directly at the camera so that whoever reviewed this footage would see his face and believe his words. "I am Ki-sung, registered researcher with Kepler Colony," he said. "I have been in contact with the creature designated Kithrex for approximately 1 hour. During this time, I have observed no aggressive behavior. The creature has remained calm and has not attempted to attack. I have reason to believe that the creature is intelligent, possibly more intelligent than we initially thought." Outside, Raiden watched the broadcast on his communication device. His face did not change. Emotion was weakness, and Raiden did not believe in weakness. Dr. Hae-won received the documentation from the research team. She began to review it, comparing what she saw with her own genetic data. The more she looked, the more certain she became. The creature's species had not been designed for war. It had been designed for something else entirely. It had been designed to care for people, to protect them, to adapt to their needs. She made a decision. She took her files and went directly to Raiden's command center. She was not military, she was a scientist, but she knew how to command respect. "Vex Commander," Hae-won said, entering the building with authority. "I have new information about the creature, information that changes everything about this operation." Raiden looked at her with little interest. "I do not care about your science. I care about capturing the creature." "Then you should care about this," Hae-won said, and she displayed her genetic analysis on all the screens in the command center. "This creature is not a weapon. Its species is a caretaker species. Its genetic code shows signs of empathy, intelligence, and the ability to form bonds with other beings. We have been treating it as a monster when we should have been treating it as a person." "That is impossible," Raiden said. "It has killed multiple creatures in its chamber." "It killed in self-defense," Hae-won responded. "Every time it was attacked, it adapted and survived. Every attack made it stronger because that is how its species survives. We made it violent by treating it as a threat." Back inside the research station, Teo was telling his father everything. He told him about the journey in the transport pod. He told him about finding the station. He told him about how Hoon had never tried to hurt him, but had instead become his friend. The boy's words were simple, but they were powerful. They painted a picture of a being that was capable of kindness and understanding. Ki-sung listened to every word. He held his son close. He could see the truth in Tayo's eyes. And he could see something else, too. He could see that his son had changed. The lonely boy who had gone to the zoo had become braver and stronger in this short time. His son had learned something that many adults never learned. His son had learned how to see past fear and find the person inside. Outside the station, soldiers began to move forward. They were preparing for the forced entry. Hoon felt the vibrations. Its colors began to shift again, becoming more intense. It was preparing for battle. It was remembering what it had been taught in the zoo. It was ready to fight for its life. But then Tayo did something surprising. He went to Hoon and hugged the creature. He wrapped his small arms around its crystalline form and held it tight. And his tears, real human tears, began to fall onto Hoon's surface. "Please do not be scared," Tayo said. "Please do not fight. I know they are scary, but you are not alone now. I am here with you. My father is here with you. There are people who want to understand you. Please, Hoon, please give them a chance." Hoon's colors began to slow. The wild yellows and reds became softer. They began to shift into blues and greens. The creature understood somehow. The child's sincerity, the child's tears, the child's faith. These things were more powerful than all the weapons outside. Dr. Haewon arrived at the station just as the soldiers were about to break through the door. She stood in front of them with her hands up. "Stop," she commanded. "You will not enter this building. I am ordering this operation suspended until further analysis can be completed." "You do not have authority," Raiden said. "No, but the Galactic Council does," Haewon said, showing him official documents on her communication device. "I have uploaded my findings to the Council. There are already 50 different governments requesting that we pause this operation. The creature is now designated as potentially sentient. You cannot act against it without new authorization." Raiden looked at the documents. He looked at the building. He looked at the screens showing Haewon's genetic data. For the first time since arriving, doubt appeared in his cold eyes. "I am ordering all forces to stand down," he said finally, "for now." Inside the research station, Ki-sung and Tayo and Hoon sat together in the silence after the alarms stopped. Outside, the soldiers lowered their weapons, and in that moment, everything changed. The course of the galaxy shifted, all because a boy had cried and a creature had chosen not to fight. For the first time, there was hope. The negotiations took 3 days. Raiden sat across from Administrator Ji-hoo and Ki-sung in the main meeting room of the colony. His soldiers stood outside the door. His weapons were still pointed at the research station. But now, at least, they were talking instead of attacking. "The creature belongs to the collectors under Galactic Registry," Raiden said in his cold, flat voice. "That is not a matter of opinion. It is law. You are harboring stolen property. If you do not surrender it, you are declaring war on the collectors." "We are declaring that this being is sentient," Ji-hoo responded calmly. "We are declaring that it has the right to protection under Galactic Law, Article 7, which states that no intelligent being can be held as property. Dr. Haewon has provided evidence of sentience. That evidence is being reviewed by the Galactic Council right now." Raiden's jaw tightened. This was the problem he had feared. Once the question of sentience was raised, the law became complicated. Once the Council got involved, he lost his control over the situation. "Even if the Council grants sentience," Raiden said, "the creature is still dangerous. It killed living beings in the zoo. That makes it a threat." "It defended itself from attack," Ki-sung said. "There is a difference between violence and aggression. This creature was taught to be violent through torture and fear, but it is not naturally aggressive. My son is proof of that. My son has lived with this creature for 10 days. He has not been harmed. A child is not a reliable test, Raiden said. Children do not understand danger. My son understands many things you do not, Kisung said, and his voice carried anger now. He understands that fear and kindness are different things. He understands that a being can be powerful and still be gentle. He understands something that many adults forget. He understands how to see a person instead of seeing a monster. In the research station, Tayo did not know about these negotiations. He only knew that his father was gone again, meeting with the dangerous soldiers. He sat with Hoon and tried to comfort the creature. Hoon's colors were constantly changing. The creature was nervous about what would happen. Everything will be okay, Tayo told Hoon, though he did not know if this was true. My father is fighting for you. Dr. Hei-wan is fighting for you. Good people are fighting for you. Hoon made soft sounds, the sounds that were close to the word Hoon, the sounds that meant the creature's name, that meant comfort, that meant the bond between them. The negotiations became more intense. Raiden demanded conditions. He demanded that Hoon be moved to a secure facility. He demanded that the creature be studied and monitored constantly. He demanded that it not be allowed to leave the planet. That is not imprisonment, Kisung said. That is exactly what it was before. You are simply asking for the same situation to continue. The creature is dangerous, Raiden repeated. This is not negotiable. The creature is lonely, Kisung said. And being lonely is what made it dangerous in the first place. On the fourth day, something unexpected happened. A broadcast came through every communication system across the galaxy. It was authorized by the Galactic Council. Tayo was being allowed to speak. A 12-year-old boy from Earth was being given the chance to address billions of beings across countless worlds. Tayo stood in front of a camera, and he was very nervous. Kisung stood beside him, with his hand on his son's shoulder. Hoon was not visible, but Tayo could feel the creature nearby, supporting him silently. My name is Tayo, the boy said. I am 12 years old. I come from Earth. I want to tell you about someone I know. The boy's voice was small, but the connection was strong. Billions of creatures across the galaxy heard his words. I know a being that everyone calls dangerous, Tayo continued. Everyone says this being is bad. Everyone says it is a monster. But I know the truth. I know that this being is scared. I know that this being is alone. I know that when someone is kind to this being, the being is kind back. Tears began to fall from Tayo's eyes as he spoke. These were not tears of sadness. These were tears of truth. My friend is not dangerous, Tayo said. My friend is lonely. My friend was never given a chance to be kind. My friend was always attacked, so my friend learned to protect itself. But now someone was kind to my friend. Now my friend knows what kindness is. Now my friend does not want to hurt anyone. The boy looked directly at the camera. His eyes were clear and honest. I know that beings are supposed to be afraid of things that are different, Tayo said. I know that beings are supposed to protect themselves from things that are strange. But I learned something different. I learned that if you look past the fear, if you look past the strangeness, there is always a person inside. There is always someone who wants to be understood. There is always someone who wants to have a friend. He paused. The entire galaxy seemed to pause with him. My friend is scared right now, Tayo said. My friend does not know what will happen next, but I want to ask you all something. Why is it a crime to be kind? Why is it wrong to give someone a chance? Why should my friend be punished for something it was forced to do? Why can't my friend be allowed to live in peace? The broadcast ended, and then something very unexpected happened. Messages began to pour in from across the galaxy. Thousands of beings from thousands of different worlds began to speak out. They spoke about the boy. They spoke about the creature. They demanded that the Galactic Council consider what Teo had said. Alien philosophers spoke about kindness and understanding. Scientists discussed the nature of consciousness and compassion. Spiritual leaders talked about redemption and the possibility of change. The entire conversation around what it meant to be sentient, to be dangerous, to be deserving of rights, everything began to shift. Raiden received news from the Collector's leadership. He received pressure from politicians. He received warnings about his position. The political cost of capturing the creature was becoming too high. The public opinion was turning against him. In the meeting room, Raiden made a decision that surprised everyone. He stood up and looked at Ki-sung and Ji-hoo. "I am withdrawing my forces," Raiden said, "but I am warning you. The Collectors do not forget humiliation. We will remember this. We will be watching." He left the planet the next morning. His soldiers departed, his weapons were taken away, the threat was gone. But Raiden's warning remained. The Collectors would indeed be watching. The conflict was not over. It was only paused. But for now, there was peace. The Galactic Council met and voted. The creature was granted the status of sentient being. It was placed under the protection of Kepler Colony. It was given rights under galactic law. And for the first time in its life, the creature that had been called an unkillable monster was given something it had never had before. It was given a future. Teo walked to the observation window in the colony with his father. Hoon came with them, its crystalline form reflecting the light of the distant sun. They looked out over the planet's landscape, at the canyons and rocks and endless sky. "What will happen now?" Teo asked his father. "Now," Ki-sung said, "we learn. We learn about Hoon. We learn about Hoon's species. We learn how to live together. We learn what it means to take care of someone." Hoon's colors shifted to a soft, peaceful blue. The creature made its sound, the sound of its name, the sound of contentment, the sound of belonging. A boy and a creature stood together at the edge of a vast planet, looking out at a universe that would never be quite the same. One small act of kindness, one child's willingness to see past fear, had changed everything. And in that moment, when human and alien stood together in peace, the true strength of humanity revealed itself, not in weapons or power or dominance, but in compassion, in understanding, in the simple, beautiful choice to be kind.